1700 years ago, in Babylonia, a group of astronomers stood on a rooftop and read the sky. They were the best in the world at what they did: charts, constellations, the slow machinery of the heavens. And they came down off that roof, and they walked over to a young mother, and they told her what they had seen written in the stars about her newborn son. They said, "Your son is going to be a thief." Now, she didn't scream, she didn't argue, she didn't go to get a second opinion. She reaches for a piece of cloth, and she puts it on his head, and she says to him, "For the rest of your life, keep your head covered, so that the fear of heaven will be on you." He's a child. He has no idea what she's talking about. Nobody tells him about the astrologers. He just grows up with something on his head. So, why do Jews wear a kippah? You've seen it. A little cap sits on the back of the head. Sometimes velvet, sometimes knitted, sometimes it's a baseball cap, sometimes it's a hat. And here's the thing, it's not in the 10 Commandments. There's no verse that says, "Thou shalt wear a small round hat." So, what is it doing there? Hold that question, because we left the kid under a palm tree, and I need to tell you what happened to him. He grows up. He becomes a scholar, a real one. His name is Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, and his words are still studied today on every continent, every single day. One afternoon, he's sitting and learning under a date palm, and the wind moves, and the cloak slips off his head. And he looks up, and he sees the dates, and the tree is not his. And something rises up in him that he has never felt before in his entire life. And he climbs that tree, and he tears down a cluster of dates with his teeth. Read that again. The cloth comes off his head, and within seconds, the Torah scholar is up a tree stealing fruit like an animal. The astrologers were right the whole time. It was in him. It was always in him. And the only thing standing between the scholar and the thief was 4 ounces of fabric. That's the story. And once you've heard it, you can't unhear it. Because now, the question isn't, why do Jews wear a kippah? The question is, what exactly is that piece of cloth doing? The Talmud gives us a clue. It describes a sage named Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehoshua, who would not walk 4 cubits, about 6 feet, with his head uncovered. And when they asked him why, he gave an answer of 4 words. The divine presence is above my head. Not God is in heaven. Not God is everywhere, in that soft, comfortable way we say it. Above my head, right now. 6 feet is too far to walk, forgetting that. And it's not only men. The Torah in the book of Numbers describes a woman's head being uncovered as part of a ritual called the Sota. And the sages draw a conclusion straight out of it, that for a married Jewish woman, going out with her head uncovered is a loss of her dignity, which tells you something important. The covering was never about a hat. It's about carrying something invisible with you into the street, a crown you can't see. And that brings us to what I think is the actual answer. Because Moses says it twice, in 2 different ways in the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 8. Take care lest you forget the eternal your God. Deuteronomy chapter 4. Know therefore this day and take it to your heart that the eternal alone is God. In the heavens above and on the earth below there is no other. Know it and take it to your heart every day. Which means the danger isn't disbelief. The danger is forgetting. There's an idea from Rabbi Dov Ber of Lubavitch, the Mittler Rebbe, in a work called Shar HaEmunah, the Gate of Faith. And it is one of the most quietly terrifying things I've ever read. He asks a question on a verse in Isaiah. God says, "Israel does not know, my people does not consider." And then immediately, in the very next breath, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity. And he asks, wait, how does that follow? They didn't do anything yet. All that's been said is that they weren't paying attention. Since when is not paying attention a sin? And his answer is this. Look at the verse just before it. The ox knows its owner. Even an ox turns its head toward the one who feeds it. So the moment a human being stops turning his head, the moment the mind simply drifts and God is no longer in the picture, that drifting is already the casting off of the yoke, not a step toward it. Because every branch of every evil a person ever does, he says, grows out of one single root: total forgetting. And total forgetting is nothing more than the plain, ordinary wandering of the mind. That's why the Torah doesn't say, don't rebel. It says, take heed lest you forget. And now you can understand one of the strangest lines the sages ever said. They said, the thief at the mouth of the tunnel calls out to God. Picture it. A man is on his knees at midnight, digging through the wall of somebody else's house. He is mid-crime. And what is he doing while he digs? He's praying, God, please let this work. Don't let me get caught. He believes. He fully believes. He believes enough to ask God for help while robbing God's own commandment. He hasn't lost his faith. He's lost his attention. God is somewhere in the back of his mind, and the back of the mind is exactly where a person goes to sin. Okay, so here's where it all lands. And I want to say this carefully because I don't think this message belongs only to Jews. For a Jew, the Kippah says, remember whose world this is, and that remembering has a shape. 613 mitzvahs. Kosher, so that even eating the most animal thing you do becomes a conversation with God. Shabbat, so that one day out of 7 you stop building the world and remember who built it. Tefillin, where you literally strap the words to your arm and your head, because the head is exactly where the forgetting happens. And if you're not Jewish, you were never left out of this, not for a second, because the Torah gives all of humanity 7 laws given at the dawn of the world to every descendant of Noah, which is all of us. 1, believe in the one God and don't serve idols. 2, don't blaspheme his name. 3, don't murder. 4, don't steal. 5, don't commit sexual immorality. 6, don't be cruel to animals. Don't eat the flesh of a living creature. And 7, build courts of justice so that there's law in the land. 7 pillars, and on them an entire civilized world stands. Because here's the thing about falling. Nobody falls all at once. Nobody wakes up in the morning and decides to become someone they'd be ashamed of. You just stop paying attention, and you drift a little, and the drift makes the next drift easier. Descent after descent after descent. And every one of them started with a mind that simply wandered off. So the kippah isn't a uniform. It isn't a badge. It isn't a fashion statement. And it definitely isn't a costume. It's a string tied around the finger of your soul. It's a mother 1700 years ago who couldn't change the stars, so she changed what her son would remember. And you don't need a piece of cloth to do that. You need something. A moment before you eat, a pause before you speak, 1 second before the day swallows you, where you look up and go, you're here. I know you're here. Because the stars said thief, and the piece of cloth said, not today.